I am reading rereading Howl's Moving Castle for the Name of the Book club. And one thing that I'm noticing is that Howl was written differently by a different author who couldn't make his dramatic antics work so well. I wouldn't like his character as much because there's a fine line between dramatic's written really well and done really well where you find them entertaining. It's the same way that Tamaki from Oran High School Host Club is written. He's written really well, so you don't find him as annoying as if he was written badly, and that's what I like about it, because I can enjoy Howl's antics and Howl yelling at the spirits to change his hair colour because he wants to be beautiful, and I don't find that annoying. Whereas if it was written differently, I would be like, oh, this is so annoying. But I don't know what it is. I think it's just the way that he's portrayed and written makes him a lot more enjoyable. I'm currently up to the bit, and I've tabbed my book because I'm tabbing this for the reread. I'm up to the bit where Sophie has just entered Howl's Moving Castle and she's come in contact with Calcifer, and they've made the contract and they're sitting down to eat breakfast, and Calcifer says the iconic line, "May all your bacon burn." And I loved that line in that scene in the movie, and I love it in the book. This is my second time reading the book. I read it first when one of my friends, Alessia, recommended that I read it, and I took her on her recommendation because I believe that she loved this book and this author. And I just was like, okay, well, let's see how different the book is from the movie. And while the book is different, it just both capture the essence of this really well. I love this story so much. Good morning. It is Wednesday the 3rd of April. I'm on page 172, which is chapter 13 of Howl's Moving Castle. We've just gotten to the point where Sophie is going to tell the king that Howl's her son and that he's horrible, blah, 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 blah. I remember that in the movie, it wasn't two people, it was just one woman. And I believe that she is the woman who they meet first in the novel. So in the novel, I think she meets this old teacher of Howl's, and then she goes to see the king, but in the movie she goes directly to the palace, and Howl's old teacher is the one that she sees. So it was very interesting to see how they might have just combined the two characters, being like, well, instead of having the king, why don't we just have the royal sorcerer interrogate Howl? And I believe that that was how it was in the movie. But in the book, it's two separate characters, and I'm enjoying it so much. I have tabbed up more of it, and so far I'm enjoying it so much. Like, it's a reread, but I'm enjoying it so much. Okay, so it is Thursday. I don't know what time. Probably around about 5:15, 5:10. And last night I read up to, I think, about page 200 of Howl's Moving Castle, and I noticed one thing. So, that in the movie, Howl's teacher and the king are combined, are two separate things. But in the movie, they are combined into just one character. But there's another thing that also happens, because after Sophie in the book goes to the palace, speaks to the king, goes out, she is met with the Witch of the Waste, who cursed her into being an old woman. In the film, I distinctly remember when Sophie is there to see the king, the Witch of the Waste is also there, and they have this sort of little confrontation as they're walking up the stairs to see the king, and I just thought that that was genius. And so I liked it in the book, but I think the movie version did that scene a lot better. But that scene was still interesting, and like there is like a funeral because like his Howl's former master has now died, and it's all really compelling, but it's just those little things that I noticed from the book to the movie. But overall, the book is fantastic, and I'm excited because I think I've got about 100 pages left because it's about 300 pages. So I'm excited to see the end of the book. And yeah, so that is my thoughts for Howl's Moving Castle. I will update you guys later. So it's Saturday the 6th, and I am 235 pages into Howl's Moving Castle, and we've just gone to the point where they had to move the castle. And I remember that in the film they moved it to Sophie's old house where she worked as a hat maker, and that was like a big gesture because the relationship between Howl and Sophie had been building, and it was a way for Howl to show romantic gesture to Sophie. In the book, while I think it is the same thing, Howl has sort of feelings for Sophie that he doesn't know what to do with, And when he asks her, well, where would you like our home to be? She says, oh, I'd like it in a field of flowers. He does take that on board, but it didn't have sort of the same feeling as the film did. And I realised that the book and the film are way different. But I just think that it was done sort of better in the film. Like, at this point, there is growing feelings between Sophie and Howl, but Howl is still a brat, and it's very subtle, whereas the movie was it wasn't as subtle. So, yeah, I just really like that scene where, like, they're getting ready to move, and, like, Sophie's excited to be back in her old house. And yeah, so I'm enjoying it so much. I want to finish this today because I want to watch the movie, and then I'll probably do like a wrap-up section of this vlog where I discuss my thoughts. But I am really enjoying my reread of Howl's Moving Castle. So it is around 11:53, and I've just finished Howl's Moving Castle. I read through Fanny's visit, which in the movie I believe she visits Sophie when they've reopened the hat shop into a flower shop. And in the movie, I believe that she's like visiting her because she's been threatened to. Like, she visited her because she wanted to visit her, but she was being threatened to leave like the snake curse thing, which does not happen in the book. It just so happens that when Fanny and Martha and Letty visit Sophie, the witch comes to have the final battle, which I think was interesting. And the climax and the battle of the book, and just, it was so good. It was like amazingly written, like the witch and her companions versus Howl and Sophie and Michael. The way in the relationships differ was extremely just poignant, and oh my god, it was so good. And then at the end, like in the middle of the battle, Sophie's like, I'm the eldest, I'm a failure. And Howl's just like, that is garbage. And I was just like, oh, my sweet baby children. I realise that the movie has a lot less time to make the characters 3D and thorough, but I do like the movie Howl and Sophie dynamic just a little bit more than book Howl and Sophie. However, I do thoroughly enjoy book Howl and Sophie's dynamic. I just think that because it's a lot more subtle, and it takes a lot more longer for them to realise that they have feelings for another, because Howl is incredibly childish and dramatic, and then Sophie is kind of just very stubborn and doesn't notice these things, that it makes it a lot more like subtle and slow burnish, whereas in the movie there is definitely like a initial like affection or attraction. And throughout the movie the movie is very streamlining the book, and while there are a lot of scenes where there shows inkling of Howl's and Sophie's feelings, I just think that the movie presents it in a much more not as subtle way, but that doesn't discount how fabulous the romance in the book is. I will say that the book, on my second time reading it, I had much more, like, I was so immersed. Like, the first time I read it in a day, but now taking my time, I can see a lot of little bits and pieces that I didn't pick up on my first read, which made the experience much more enjoyable. And I do like how it ended, like with Sophie and Howl getting together and all that, but there's just some issues that some scenes that I think dragged on a bit, but all in all, it's a fabulous book. Like, I highly recommend it. There are 2 sequels, I believe. The edition that I am reading, like, as you finish the book, it has more than the story, and then it has like bits and pieces, like interviews with the author. This was released, I think, after the movie came out. And in the second page here, it says, 4 years after Howl, you wrote Castle in the Air and then A House of Many Ways. So those are the 2 sequels to this book. I do have Castle in the Air because I remember buying it when I bought this book. And I bought this edition because my friend Alessia had these on her shelves, and I loved the colours. Even though I do want to collect another edition of Howl's Moving Castle, because I like the animated cover, and it looks so good. Anyway, so those are the 2 sequels. I don't know if I'll read them. I am interested in them, but for the moment, I'll just stick with House Moving Castle. So I give this a 5 out of 5. There was a moment and a couple of bits of language that is very old. But other than that, I think it's just a really, really, really fun book. I highly recommend it. And I recommend the movie. We'll probably do a separate video detailing the differences between the movie and the book, because this vlog is probably long enough. But I will definitely do a follow-up video to this, because reading this book has inspired me to watch the movie again, and I know that I'm going to enjoy the movie. So thank you so much for watching this reading vlog. I really enjoyed rereading Howls Moving Castle, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!